Yeah, we're live here on YouTube. I have a big man from United Kingdom. That is Epro. Epro Imane. How you doing, Epro?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning to you. I hope you had a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I really do. Have a great night. Okay, so we were actually having a conversation yesterday on the
Yeah.
radio. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you actually made a point
Yeah.
saying you are disappointed. No,
Mm-hmm.
you are disappointed. Oleksandr Usyk.
Yeah.
Really not really giving you what you wanted from him, like personally. Also, you expected, someone of such rate in boxing that is a whole lot better of him. He should have more bout because looking at Usyk right now, he only have 24 bout, like we discussed, and
Mm-hmm.
now he said he have only three more fights to retire from boxing. That definitely that's going to make a total of 27 bout, his total
Mm-hmm.
professional career, which lies to what Mike Tyson said, was not given enough to what boxing stands for. So, do you still stand to that particular and that you are disappointed in Oleksandr Usyk? So far, so good in his career.
Yeah. Like I said yesterday, yes, I'm highly disappointed. I expected him to give other people the opportunity the same way he got. Um, Trying to fight an MMA or UFC guy who don't have any experience in boxing, who's never, you know, been like in the boxing ring with boxers, and fighting him for a championship for WBC belt is something I don't understand. I think it's not fair. I think it's quite unreasonable for him to do something like that. Him and the WBC and Dana White. And I'm surprised Dana White is hosting a show with WBC belt under it when he's trying to promote his own Zuffa belt. So I don't know how that's going to pan out, but I'm really shocked that Usyk is going through that route, and I think it's not good for boxing because these guys they work their way up, and it's only fair for them to get the opportunity after hard work to get to that position. And if it's not given to them, I just think is highly unfair. And for Usyk, yes, I understand that he's had difficult fights over the years. He's had tough fights, over 400 amateur fights. Um,
Okay.
and then into cruiserweights, where he dominated, or which he dominated, sorry. And then, like into heavyweights, which he also dominated. Yes, I know he's looking for an easier fight to cool off a bit because he's aging, and all these difficult fights tells on you later in life. But you're a boxer. If you don't want to fight hard fights, leave the belts, you know, um, relinquish the belt so that others can fight for it. That's, for me, I think that's fair. Like, if you think that, okay, I've had so many hard fights, I don't want anymore, I really want to chill out now, then be kind enough to relinquish the belt, so that others who've been waiting will fight for it. So for me, I'm not happy at all. I think it's just unfair.
Okay. All right. Now, I think basically what should be his reason is maybe let's say his age. I think Usyk should be 39 years for that 38 39 years, and he's actually been careful with some kind of fight he now takes because it might actually hurt him. Now, let's take for instance Crawford. Now, if you look at what Usyk is doing, you can actually also say Crawford actually did same. because he was like, okay, when in an interview when he was like asked, about Muhammad Ali and all of that, he made a comment saying, if actually Muhammad Ali did something he did, he would have been healthy in his old age, because fighting to your late 30s, get to 40s, you're still fighting. You're getting your veins so weak, and that actually might hurt you that you couldn't even take care of yourself. Getting old, which I said before, he actually used Muhammad Ali as a yardstick to that particular, talk. So now, do you maybe think the new era boxer actually saying, okay, one of the reason why all these men, the old time boxers, they were not able to take care of themselves at the old age. They were not able to, get back to their body system because they fought for a long time. They took a whole lot of fights. A year they take a whole lot of fight. They fought to their 40s and all of that. Now it's definitely going to come back to hold their body. That is one of the reason why the new era boxers have to now say, okay, no, we're not doing this. We just have to try to look after our body, look at our system. When we're getting old, we still have to care for ourselves. This is actually going to be our reason for doing this. This is coming from Bud Crawford. He said that actually. Do you understand? So, do you think maybe this excuse actually?
Well, first of all, they say health is wealth, and when it comes to health, you never know when you're gonna fall sick. Uh, People who are healthy in exercising, healthy in their eating, in their diets, healthy that they don't drink, or they never drunk, nor smoked. Some of them, will wake up and die just like that from heart attack. Some healthy people go to bed and die, and they don't know what happened. So, what I'm trying to say, in essence, is we don't know that if Muhammad Ali's Parkinson's was from boxing or fighting till later ages. There are so many people who are suffering from Parkinson who has never boxed. So, we can't really attribute the Parkinson to boxing because, we don't know. We say that, but you know, it could be anything else. And yeah, it still boils down to what I said earlier, that if you feel that you're tired and you can't, or your body, because everyone knows their body. If you feel that your body is no longer going to carry or take them excruciating camps, fights, then someone in Usyk's position should relinquish the belt. There will be no backlash, or there will be nobody blaming him if he comes out tomorrow and be like, okay, I've decided I'm going to relinquish the belt. I'll go into fighting MMA guys, because I think it's easier for me. I think it's going to help with my recovery. Or I think it's going to help with, you know, preserving my body so I don't become ill after boxing. Then it's fine. I don't think anyone will have an issue with that. But trying to fight for a WBC belt with an MMA guy, while people like Caballero, Lawrence Okoli are waiting for the opportunities, is I just think that's unfair. And
Okay.
that's how I look at it. I think it's just, it is unfair where, you're not giving others the opportunity. You can do what you want. It's your body, it's your career. But for as long as it doesn't have an impact in other people's journey. Because everyone has their own journey and trajectory. But if you're going to hinder them from achieving their dream, then it's not fair. And that's where I stand.
All right. By the way, that just you stand on that Usyk is actually a disappointment to the world of boxing, to world of boxing, to what boxing stand for. Usyk disappointed, the world of boxing, what boxing stand for, the image of boxing.
Well, I wouldn't call it a disappointment, but that would be a strong word. But it's just that
Okay.
he's being unreasonable.
Okay.
He's being unreasonable.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said yesterday, people are misled, by the team, i.e., the promoters, friends, managers, coaches, nutritionists, all these things, you get all these side talks from here and there. Oh, I do this. Oh, don't do this. And we're humans. And sometimes when opinions are thrown to us, um, we digest them, we assimilate them, and then, make a decision. Sometimes the good ones and sometimes the unfair ones. Like in this case, I think he's made an unfair decision towards other people. And, I wouldn't use the word disappointment, but I will use the word, it's just being unfair. And, he needs to have a rethink and see how, he will give others that opportunity, the same one that, he got.
All right. Anyway, thank you very much for joining up the podcast this morning. We're still going to come live more often, to talk
Mhm.
boxing, of course, this boxing. Thank you very much for coming around, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Guys, you're also free to chime in. You're free to join us and let's hear your opinions. Yeah, you're free to give
Yeah.
us to join us. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Okay,
All
good.
right. All right. So, guys, it is just what it is, and we have this big ring boxing show, and yeah, the Saturday morning live, and I tell you, we always get you boxing discussions, boxing content, and more especially things that actually go to Swedish too. All right, thank you very much. Okay, we'll come. I'm still gonna come back quite often, and just to get you great content for boxing. My name is Jack Morgan, but people that really love me do call me Oga Momo, and I love you. Thank you.